And we are recording now. So, and I have no idea what's going on with my light tonight. Typically, I don't have this white face look, but I have adjusted lights until when I turned more lights on, it was even worse. So I apologize for that. And hope y'all are staying warm where you are. I think we're at -5 here right now. And I don't know how we can be at -5 degrees and it's still snowing. It's still spitting snow outside. I just don't know how that can be happening. So, but we're getting a little Indiana weather, and I know other places are too. Got a couple of clients out in Texas, and Texas is getting some snow. And they're worse about doing anything about it than we are. So, um, my agenda for tonight is I want to go over the quiz with you because I know that some of you have still been asking about the quiz, and we haven't really talked about it in any of our times together. So I want us to be able to talk through the quiz. I'm hoping we can do that fairly quickly. Then I thought we would touch on the stages of change because you have another quiz this week relative to stages of change. And I'm going to tell you up front, I have been into that quiz this time again and checking the answers. And I think there are probably a couple that could have more than one answer and it be correct. So I want you to take the quiz, but I don't want you to panic because we'll review it like we did the first one. Right now, on the first one, everybody's score should have been changed. At this point, everybody should just have 40 points for the quiz. But we're going to talk tonight because there were 3 questions especially that seemed to kind of be the ones that caught people off guard. So we're going to talk about those. One of them, I disagreed with the key answer. And, so I've let Dr. Washburn and our team, our teaching team, I've let them know about that. And so we'll talk about which one that is and why I disagree with the answer that they gave. So I think the important thing is that we be able to have a little bit of time to talk about maybe why you chose some of the answers you chose and whether or not they actually were quote wrong answers or they just didn't match the key. So that's my talking about that tonight is my agenda, talking a little bit about the stages of change. And then if we have time for a role play, what I'd like you to be thinking about is what skill or skills would you like to see another role play about? I posted the 2 role plays that Kim and Kim did with me last week, and
Carolyn
did with me last week. Posted those, and between the 2 of them, we covered all of the skills. We didn't do a lot with goal setting, but between the 2 of them, we covered all of the skills that you've had so far, or that you've been looking at so far. As one of my friends says, without further ado, let's jump into this. I'm going to pull the quiz up on the screen. At least I hope I am.
Professor Adams, can I ask a question?
You absolutely can.
Is there a way, I don't know if like you enable it or someone else enables it, that at least after like everybody's would have been graded, that we can go back and see the quiz, our answers, the correct
Okay,
answers?
you know what? I want to check that out because I can see them, but Barbara, can you go to your grade center?
I am. I'm in my grade center.
Okay, up at the top, there should be like a down arrow to the right side of
Okay.
the of
Oh,
the
no.
assignment. There's not.
Mm-mm.
Well, phooey.
Because that was my only thing too, is like I did take this week's quiz and I was thinking I got answers wrong. So I'm glad that you already eased me there. But I was like, it would have been nice to know what the right answer was so I knew how to correct myself in the future.
Yeah. Well, we'll go over all of the right answers to the first one tonight. I can't in good conscience go over the answers
Right.
to the second one. But what I will tell you is I can get into your quizzes and see them, and I don't know why you can't. I was hoping there would be a drop down because my screen is different than yours. I was hoping there would be a drop down arrow that you could drop it down and see test results, I think it says. And
I can click on my actual grade, like I got 36 out of 40, but even still, it just says like 0 out of 4 points. It doesn't actually say anything about the answers.
about which answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there needs to be a way that you guys can see that. So we're going to have to figure that out. For this time, what I'll tell you is if you want to go through your answers, call, text me, whatever, and I will pull it up on my screen and share it with you so that you can at least see what your answers were.
Okay.
Okay. It
Thank you.
won't take us long to do that, and I'll work it out with you to where you can see what the discrepancies were in your answers. Okay.
I have a question about the quiz also.
All right.
It's not showing up on my, it's LA activity 2, right? But there's no LA activity 2. There's just a 1 and a 3 in my Blackboard. So I'm wondering where the quiz is. How do I access it?
Well, I opened it up, so it should have been. Did you try?
Oh.
Did you try refreshing your page?
I'll
It's
look again.
LA3, Debbie.
Oh, it's LA3. What is
Mhm.
LA2 then?
It was like a role play or
A
something.
role play, I think.
Oh, okay. I only had 1 and 3. Okay,
Hang
I'll
on.
look again.
I'm trying to look and see.
I looked at it on Sunday, I guess. So maybe.
Yeah, activity 1 is the role play. Activity 2 is the quiz, and activity 3 is setting client goals and tracking outcomes.
Okay. Well, maybe it's showing up now.
Okay. If it's not, let me know, and well, I'll get somebody to or call IT, contact IT, and tell them you can't access the quiz, and they can go in and look for you and see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Want to do that quiz. This one up. Okay, I'm going to try sharing my screen again. And it's still not showing up. How come? Oh, there it is. Okay. Couple things I noticed as I went through the quiz again. It says I think it says there are 10 questions. There are 20. So there are a couple things we're going to need to change. I saw a typing error in something. So there's some things that we're going to need to go back and just kind of clean up a little bit. And Oh, that's test options. Hang on. Among other things, my mouth is not wanting to cooperate tonight. Here we go. Let me stop the share. Come back over here. And 2 week 2. And the quiz. Here. All right, now we should have it. There it comes. This is the right one. See, it says there's a total of 10 questions, and there's 20 questions. But right now, I tried to go back in and edit some of this, and it would not allow me to do that. So the questions that seemed to throw you were, or that you seem to have some difficulty with, so I want to particularly pay attention to them, are 4, well, I guess 2, 4, 6, and 10. So we'll kind of go through these one by one, but we want to definitely hit those and get some feedback from you guys. So it looks like you've been crying, Mary. That's a door opener. And most of you, that's what you chose for that first one. 2 was one that threw you a little bit. And this is the one that I disagreed with. Miss Jake says, can you tell me what's upsetting you? And what would you call that?
That sounds like an open question to me.
Sounds like an open question. And that was what they responded. That's what the key said it was. Here's what I want to caution you about. If I ask you, can you do something? Is that an open question or a closed question?
I could say no.
It becomes, when you put the can you in front of it, it becomes a yes or no question. So that's, to me, that's the discrepancy there. What would turn that, can you tell me what's upsetting you, into an open question?
You could use who, what, where, when, why, how. So what is upsetting you? Why are you upset?
Now we want to kind of stay away from whys, and we're going to get to that down here in a little bit. Whys can sound confrontive and often can put people on the defensive. But any of those others, if you just take out the can you could just say, tell me what's upsetting you, or what's upsetting for you about this. And then it becomes an open question. But if that just said, tell me what's upsetting you, or well, if it just said, tell me what's upsetting you, is there any other option there that you think that might fit?
Then that would be a minimal encourager, or
Mm,
no? That'd be a door opener.
That'd be a door opener. Could be a door opener, couldn't it? So well, it's just how we phrase things can sometimes, in naming these skills, sometimes more than one applies. It's knowing how we create that scenario and what we're doing with using that skill is what makes the difference. And then Miss Jackson, number 3 says go on, which is what? You guys can just shout them out. It's the minimal encourager. You know, those short statements like that are definitely going to be minimum encouragers. Number 4 was the other one that you all kind of struggled with. Tell me some more about what has been happening. Now, what the key says that's a door opener, and it is. It opens up the possibility of more discussion or for the client to tell you more. Is there anything else there that you would think that might also qualify as?
Open question.
Open question, absolutely right, Laura. You know, and what would make it an open question?
Well, you're asking them to tell you, so it's a question, but you're
Uh-huh.
giving them the opportunity to say a lot about it.
That's right. That's right. Uh-huh. You're so it's a door opener, open question, which I think is why I think that's why it was confusing sometimes for people. And this is another one of those cases when it can be more than one thing. It's an invitational skill, but certainly that open question opens the door for your client to share more deeply.
Can you help me for a second? Just
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe I'm taking it just far too literally. Forgive
Okay.
me for that, but if like for me, I'm like, if it's a question, it's a question. There's a question
There
mark.
should be a question mark.
And I think that's why for me, maybe that was hard too, because I'm like, oh, is it an open question if it's not a question
Mhm,
versus a statement?
mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that can be confusing about using open questions is that there's not always a question mark at the end of it. It's the question is implied in it's like Laura said, you know, the you're asking them to tell you more about what's happening. Uh, and so that becomes, it is a question, but it is a question um, that leaves space, that leaves the option for the client to respond with the information that they choose to give you, rather than just if I said, "Can you tell me some more about what's happening?" That's a closed question. The client can say, "Yeah, I can," or "Nope, can't tell you anything else about that. I don't want to talk about that." But that, if I say, "Can you?" then it becomes a closed question. When I say, "Tell me more about what's been happening," it still is, it's a question. It's also a door opener. And I know, I got to tell you, you know, I'm a English major and was an English teacher, and it drives me nuts. I want there to be question marks and commas, and I want that punctuation to be in there, which I think is part of what makes this a little bit confusing for us. But I think that, again, the key is, how would we use that skill? Door openers and open questions are invitational skills that we use pretty much the same way. They're to create space, to give space for our clients to be able to tell their story. Okay. Number 5, this is another one. And how long ago was that? Did anybody think that was an open question? Okay. Why do you think it's why do you think it's closed? That we consider these kinds of things closed questions?
It's asking for specific information.
It's asking, yeah, exactly, Wendy. It's asking for specific information. You know, how old was your mother when she died? That's a closed question. It's asking for specific information. So how would we turn that into an open question?
Could we say, and how does this affect you today?
We could. That's asking Nisha for a different piece of information.
Right.
But
right.
if you take that same thought and kind of what if you said, sounds like this has been affecting you for a long time, or sounds like you've been living with this for a long time. I'm wondering how long you've been living with it. Or I'm curious about when this first started.
Professor Adams.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I
Go
don't mean
ahead.
to be annoying. I just
You are
I
not
wanna make
being
sure that I'm
annoying
totally
at all.
clear.
You're not being annoying at all.
I think the issue that I'm having in the discrepancy of this conversation, the versus a quiz versus what we learned, is in the book, because I wanted to check again. In the book, it described an open question as dealing with still a question that had an answer, but more broad, which would have been the first one. But like a closed question is so specific, like it's a yes or no answer or 12 years, versus an open question could be anything like, why don't you tell me about that? That's technically an open or whatever.
Right.
But okay, just making sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But
Okay.
you also see how that overlaps into those door opener.
Yeah, I can see the door opener and open question.
Mm-hmm.
I just was concerned when we were talking about that other question that we said, oh, that's more of a closed question.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we can say, no, I don't want to answer that. That's a different response, I feel like, than, oh, there's a specific answer, not,
Mhm.
no, I don't want to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or am I missing?
Well, it becomes let's go back to that one.
I think it was like question 3 or something.
Is it 3? No, that's
Or
a
2?
a minimal encourager.
Yeah, it might have been 2.
Yeah,
Tell me what's upsetting.
can you tell me what's upsetting you?
I thought that was very broad. Like, what's upset? Not, can you tell me why your dad's upsetting you? Which I thought would be a closed question, versus what's upsetting you is giving them the option to explain.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and again, the key words there are the can you. When you put can you in front of anything, it takes, it doesn't matter what follows the can you. When you say can you to someone, you've created a closed yes or no. Yes, I
So-
can do it, or no, I can't do it.
and this is the last time I'm going to say anything.
No, now don't do that, because others have same questions that you do. So,
But like if we look on page 77 in the book, an example of an open question is, can you tell me how you and your parents
I know.
are we just, my whole thing too is like, I totally respect, I just want to know, making sure, like, is the book leading us astray?
Yeah, I'm overriding the book here.
Okay, that's all I need to
know. In this instance,
Perfect.
It's the difference is those words, can you, and this is the one that I went back to the team and said, I don't agree with this. We looked at the book, we saw those statements, but none of us really agreed with when you put the can you in front of a statement, a question, whatever. When you put the can you in there, you've closed that question. It becomes a yes or no.
Thank you so much. That
Okay.
helps me now that I like book versus what I'm learning. I wanted to make sure that I knew which side I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Now, are you going to hear people saying, can you tell me what's upsetting you? Or can you tell me more about that? You absolutely are. But realize that when you say that, it does turn it into a yes or no question. And that leaves the client the option of saying, oh, yeah, I can tell you. And shutting down right then. Or, nope, I can't tell you what's upsetting me, and stopping again. And when what you want them to do is to explore that.
Thank you.
Does that help? I don't want to make it more confusing.
No, absolutely. Having what you guys as the Townsend Institute expects us to learn, that helps me versus like if I just got it from I just wanted to make sure that wasn't for me the discrepancy of what was right, what was wrong.
Nobody's going to slap you up the side of the head if you say it. And there may be times when you will use it and it's fine. But what we want you to do is to get into the habit of not formulating your reflections back to your client or your interactions with your client, not formulating them in a way that would make them closed. It's like a lot of the other things. Once you've practiced these things, you're going to have your own style. And it's do what works with the client in the moment. If you say, can you tell me what's upsetting you to a client? Don't back up and feel like, oh, I shouldn't have said that way. Listen to what your client says and then go from there. If the client simply gives you the response of, well, yeah, I can tell you that. Then what would your next response to your client be? You would do something to invite them to expound on that. So tell me more about that. We did that one. We did that one. We did that one. Mr. Jake says, what are they saying? And that is an open question. This goes back to, this uses those, what, how, when, those kinds of things. So it becomes an open question. I'm gonna emphasize again that we try to not ask clients, why do you think that happened, or why did that happen, or why this, why that, why the other, because that can feel confrontive to them and bring them into the defense. And a lot of times, particularly early in the relationship, what they're going to say to you is, I don't know. That's why I'm here, to try to figure it out. And so it kind of becomes frustrating to them. So to say, what can you tell me about that? Or what can you tell me about how that felt? Rather than, why were you feeling that way? Or, why did you respond like that? Or we kind of try to stay away from the direct why questions. Another minimal encourager with the IC 8 is, what has it been like having to deal with this? And that's pretty obviously an open question, and and it invites the client. So it's a door opener, but it's also, to me, all open questions are door openers. So if you answered that as that was a door opener, I would have given you credit for it. That it has a question mark at the end of it gives you a little bit of more of a clue about it being a question, and brings you down to open and closed. but there's an argument that can be made that that's a door opener. How long were you at your old school? Can you see why that's a closed question? Again, it's asking, as Wendy said, for specific information. Why have you changed schools after all that time? And they said this is a closed question. Can you see how that might feel confrontive to somebody? You know, why have you changed schools after all this time? And how else might we phrase that or frame that for a client so that it becomes less challenging? What might be a better response there?
I think I would have said what changed to cause you to change schools. or
Exactly.
what-
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. That would
I
be fun.
See, I see why the one before that is a closed question, because that's it wants a specific like answer. But
Uh-huh.
so this one, I would have answered, I probably did answer open question, because to me that's a very much a door opener. Like why, you know, what happened? I kind of see it as the why is like what happened.
I
don't
agree.
like I don't see how that can get like someone could give like a specific answer
Hmm.
for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes. And this was this was one of the ones that we disagreed with the answer on too. We could see how they made the argument for closed question. This quiz, by the way, came from the designers of your book or the writers of your book. And we're going to make some tweaks in it when we use it again. But we could see what the, you know, why have you changed schools after all that time? It does ask for specific information. So we could see why they called it a closed question. But what we talked about was, would a client hear this as a closed question? You know, and you know, obviously, the obviously Mary didn't hear it as a. She gave the information. How might we follow that up then? How might we respond to that? My dad got a promotion. We bought a bigger house in a different part of the city.
You could ask her how she feels about that, how she felt about that move.
How she felt about that move. Yeah, wondering what that move was like for you. Wondering wondering how you felt about making a move like that. Yeah. Anything else that you can think of that we might follow up with? And Laura's response is
Like
great.
how that affected you?
I'm wondering how that's affected you. No. No. And the other thing that I'm really kind of introducing here that we haven't talked a lot about is, are you hearing the tentativeness of, you know, I'm not making statements back to the client, definitive statements back to the client. Doing a lot of I'm wondering, or I'm curious about, or I wonder if, and again, those are all door openers. They're ways to open up space and to introduce some thoughts or some ideas for the client to consider without imposing my opinion on the client. It's still, I'm exploring. I want to know about you. I'm exploring what you have to tell me. So, any other questions about open questions, closed questions, the quiz. Now I'm going to warn you ahead of time that you are going to find that when you do the change quiz, because I've looked through it and I see it coming down the pike, that that there are going to be, I'm going to say several of them, that there could be more than one correct answer to. So one of the clues for you there is to tie your response into what would be happening in that level of the change process. And if you don't have any more questions about the quiz, we're going to shift over to the change process real quick and just kind of go through those stages. Y'all okay with this?
Yes.
All right. Now I want a whiteboard. All right, so we're gonna look at stages of change. Whoa. And what I want us to do here is take, let's just get rid of that. Take each stage, and I want you to give me some feedback about what you read in the chapter or what you learned about what would we be looking for that tells us that someone is in that stage of change. And so the first one is pre-contemplation. Well,
No awareness.
okay, so there's going to be no awareness at all. No awareness that there's a problem. Anything else that you can think of in that pre-contemplation stage?
Maybe denial of problem.
Could be denial. Mhm. Okay. And this pre-contemplation stage, is the person thinking at all about making any kind of change? No, they're not, because they don't think it's necessary. So there's no intent to change in that pre-contemplation stage. So John comes into your office and he says, I'm here because my wife insisted that I come to counseling or she was going to leave me. And I don't know what her deal is. I'm just here to satisfy her and get her off my back. That fits all of the elements of pre-contemplation. John doesn't have any intent in changing. You know, he's mollifying his wife. And how would you expect that John would come into you? Is he going to be open or is he going to be resistant?
Pretty resistant.
He's going to be really resistant. Yeah. And a lot of times there's that, we wonder, so how do I work with somebody who's at that place? You know, we get this a lot also with people who are mandated to counseling. And so we bring it into the room. You know, I wouldn't, with adolescents, you know, I wouldn't want somebody to force me to come here either. And so, what we do, or what we often do with people who are mandated to counseling, is, since you have to be here anyway, I wonder if maybe you and I together could figure out something that might be helpful to you from this time. And with somebody like John, well, since your wife insisted that you come, I wonder if we might have some time here, or if this might be an opportunity for you to tell me your side of the story. That, what have you been seeing going on? What's your marriage look like for you? So we're looking for there that basically the person is, doesn't, and may even say, this is a problem for so-and-so, but it's not a problem for me. So what happens then when we move into the contemplation stage? Well, I can't get on the keyboard. What do we see there?
It moves into the someday category. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. So there is recognition, well, of a potential problem, and maybe someday I should address this. Move that box out a little bit and give us. Okay. Maybe if we're fighting all the time, we ought to figure out why we're fighting all the time. Maybe if I'm getting in trouble at school every day, it would be good to figure out what's going on, what's happening there, and why I keep getting in trouble. So that's the contemplation. Then after contemplation, we're going to look at preparation. Now, what does preparation look like?
They're like taking a step forward, like making a plan to get help, or they're thinking about it more seriously, or they've shown initiative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What might that initiative look like, Marissa?
That could be, I think the first thing I would say was either they've said out loud that yes, this is a problem, and then
Okay.
or I need help would be another first step.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you think of when you think of preparation? What if somebody comes in and says, my friend gave me this great book on boundaries, and when I was reading it, it felt like somebody was following me around. That's a step of preparation. I've been noticing that that people at work avoid me. And so I've been asking some people at work about, have I done something to offend you? And several of them have told me that I seem angry all the time. It's preparation. I've I've listened to feedback.
So they have more awareness
more awareness.
of their
Yes.
surroundings.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Of the problem and also the consequences or impact that problem is having on them. Okay, well, we'll leave that one down there. I'll bet you it's not going to let me. Okay, I'm going to move up here because I don't think it's going to let me put another piece to the springboard. Then we go to action. Now, what does action look like?
Actively making the changes.
Okay, so beginning to make some of those changes. Yeah. Yeah. Now, where would we put them making an appointment and coming in for counseling? Would we make that, is that an action step?
I see that as more preparation
Okay.
action.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good. That's a good observation, Marissa. Is that coming in or calling about counseling, those are preparation steps. Action is when we really start to look at, okay, what is change going to look like for you? What is your desired outcome here? So we're looking at identifying desired outcome and we're looking at some goal setting. Could be small steps. Well, I'm going to put that. Okay. Desired outcome and steps to achieve desired outcome. Okay. So this is rubber meets the road time. And so it might look like if somebody wants to reduce their anxiety, then we want to talk about, so what will it look like? What will your life look like when you are less anxious? And that's going to create that desired outcome. And then we're going to look at, okay, now step by step, this is the change techniques that you read about. Can you think of a change technique that might be appropriate here? So I better put an E on that.
Maybe like providing new learning experiences.
Okay, yeah, what might one of those look like?
Maybe role playing.
Could be role playing. We kind of want to get into the relationship a little bit, but we could keep hitting those same keys. All right. Think about, I've got this client sitting in my office who wants to reduce their anxiety level. What's something that I can do with that client? What's an intervention I can do with that client pretty quickly to begin moving toward that?
Breathing techniques?
Absolutely. Breathing techniques are always going to be one of the ones that we're going to bring out first. And why is that? Any thoughts about why that might be?
They can do it anywhere.
Absolutely. They can do it anywhere. They don't need special equipment to do that.
It's also going to be hard to work with a client that has that level of emotional arousal, right?
Exactly. So
yeah.
you're helping them to learn some emotional regulation and some containment. You know, breathing techniques are really overlooked and underutilized. Almost all of our clients can benefit from practicing good breathing techniques. Because it becomes so useful for reducing stress wherever they are. If they're driving, if they're standing in line at the grocery store, whatever, if they learn to use those breathing techniques appropriately, what they're doing is releasing a natural antidepressant into their body. And it has a calming effect. It moves them from that monkey brain, the amygdala, into the prefrontal cortex, where they are more in control of their emotions, of their behavior, of their thoughts. And so breathing is one of the most powerful tools that we can use.
I have a question about that.
Go ahead, Laura.
How long should a person do a breathing technique for? Like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or?
There are dozens of different techniques. There's there's the 4-4-4. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 4. There's the 4-4-8. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 8. There's the box. To imagine that you're creating a box, and you breathe in along the top of the box. You breathe out along the side of the box. You breathe in when you go along the bottom of the box. You breathe out when you come back up and complete the box. But there are dozens of examples like that. Some clients will respond better to some of them than to others. So it's good to have a few of those in your toolbox. If you search Google for breathing techniques, you will find scads of them. The important thing is that you want to have the client, you want them to breathe in air, get down into their diaphragm in the breathing in, and you want them to breathe in through their nose. You want them to hold it for a pause, and then you want them to expel the breath, blowing it out of their mouth. With a lot of my clients, I talk about we're breathing in the Holy Spirit and we're breathing out the garbage. And you know, because I see most of the clients that I see are faith-based clients, that has a meaning for them. Sometimes what you'll find with faith-based clients is when we start to talk about things like breathing techniques and relaxation techniques, they immediately in their heads, they immediately go to, that's an Eastern practice. That's not something that I can, that as a Christian, I should be doing. So how we present that, you know, you guys, was it last week or is it this week that you have the opportunity to use the relaxation.
Last week.
Was that last week? Yeah.
Mhm.
Helping our clients with relaxation techniques. All of those are steps that we can do to move toward the client's desired outcome, which is to reduce their anxiety, or to, it works the same. It's depression, fear, whatever. We're taking these small steps to help put the client in control, and we're giving them the opportunity to practice some of these things in a safe environment in session. But we're filling their toolbox with things that they can take and use when they're not in session. And so what we're looking to do is to empower the client. Okay. All right, so we get some action going, and that can be. We'd like for that to take up the most of our counseling time, but depending on the client's ego strength and resiliency, sometimes we have to do more. We have to spend more time in that preparation stage with them, and sit with them and walk with them through that preparation stage, or even the contemplation stage, helping them clarify what the problem is that they're struggling with. You guys may have had some experience with having somebody or talking with somebody who says, other people, I'm just so soft-hearted. Other people just take advantage of me all the time, and I just can't say no to other people. And so they might come in saying, I want to learn to say no to other people. Now, what is underlying that inability to say no?
They feel helpless.
They feel helpless. They maybe
Feel
people pleasing,
victimized.
victimized, don't want to be rejected, and so all of those things. Then listening for all of those things, how might we redefine what's the real problem?
Assertiveness.
Assertiveness. Okay. If we put it into a character structure format, what would we be looking at character structure wise there?
Boundaries.
Separation. Mhm. Yeah. And so now we're not going to say to the client, your issue is not being able to say no. Your issue is that you're not able to differentiate yourself from other people. But we're going to kind of pull that into the back of our minds, and we're going to look at, okay, as we pursue saying no, then what are we going to help that client look at? We want them to be able to look at what's happened when you've said no to people before. And then we're going to tie that into, and how have you felt when you've said no to people? Because what we want to get them into is, people who have difficulty saying no to other people, or who feel like they are victimized or imposed on or taken advantage of. Typically, we talk about that in terms of boundaries. Another clinical word that we use for that is codependent. Those are characteristic. That's a strong characteristic of someone who is codependent. Underlying codependency are the issues of separation. And I might be rejected. I'm not good enough. People won't like me. They won't want to have anything to do with me if I don't do things for them. All of those are things that we would address in that action piece. Then when we've going, this process is like any process that we engage in. We can go back and forth between the stages. Once we have begun to see, and 6 months is kind of the guideline that we use. When somebody has been practicing new behaviors and getting closer or getting, they're doing things that are creating their desired outcome for 6 months or more, then we say they're moving into the maintenance stage. I have a client right now who's just moved into maintenance. She came in, we've hit her, the things that she wanted to work on. She's feeling really good about where she is right now. And so I'm saying that she is in maintenance. She wants to reinforce the behaviors that she's begun to implement into her life. And so we're moving for her, we're moving from biweekly appointments. We moved from biweekly appointments to monthly appointments. And today we made the decision together that we're going to move out 3 months. And we're going to see how she's doing with sustaining the new behaviors that she has implemented and done well with, demonstrated well. We talked about what could be, because under maintenance, we have to look at relapse. When we are, particularly when we are trying to build new grooves in wear new grooves in our brain in terms of how we think about ourselves and other people and how we approach life. Typically what is going to happen is that we're going to go along and we're going to be feeling successful. And then something is going to happen that gets us off track. And what do you think happens when people get off track?
Backsliding.
Backsliding. Yeah. And so we want to work in some relapse skills. We want to put some things to help with relapse into our toolbox. One is we want to recognize when we've gotten off the plan that was working. Something was working, it was working well. There was an interruption, I call them hiccups. There's a hiccup, we get off track. So what can we do to pull ourselves back on track? And that's different for different clients, which is why it's important to talk about this up front. Because for some clients, it might be, I will right away make a call in and set a counseling appointment, and we'll talk this through. Other clients might feel like I can't do that because then I feel like I've failed. And so that's why it's so important for us to set relapse as a normative part of this growth process. I tell people you can never go back to square one, which is often what they think or what they are told when they have an oops, when they have a slip up. see, I knew you'd never change. You know, nothing is any different. You know, you're doing the same thing that you've always done. And what I tell clients is you can never go back to square one because you know too much to return to square one. So what we do is we pick it up from here and we look at, all right, what was working? And so in that, a part of maintenance is helping them to have tools in their toolbox that help them to stay on track and to have some tools that help them when they feel like they've slipped a little bit or when someone else has said, you know, I think I'm noticing that you're grumpier or you're sulking more or whatever. If they get that feedback, then that's a red flag for them of, all right, I want to pull out my relapse tools. I want to get back on my maintenance here. Now, some change plans include okay, now it's going to give me a whole bunch of RFIs. Include termination. I don't. I think that's one of the things that can set people up for failure, to give them the idea that once you deal with all of this, once you get into maintenance, this is never going to come up again. You're never going to wrestle with it again. That hasn't been my experience in my own life, and it hasn't been my experience in working with clients. What I see is that they will do kind of this spiral thing, and that as they gain more growth, more time in the process, they will circle around things less frequently. That there'll be a wider spiral as they continue to grow. You know, it may be that they don't get to a place where whatever it is, I may never get to a place where being disappointed because I can't get my mother's approval is not going to matter to me. What I hopefully can do is get to the place as I spiral out and out and out that I can recognize situations where what I would like to have is my mother's approval, and I can take a minute or 15 minutes or longer to grieve that and say, you know, it's really sad that we couldn't have that kind of relationship. And then I look at, okay, now where can I go to get this need met? This is a legitimate need that I have. Where can I go to get this need met? Who can I talk to? Who can I ask to do some kind of activity with me? Whatever meets the need. Who in my circle? How do I get that need met? You know, and it might be not turning to a person. It might be, all right, I want to spend some time journaling. I want to get this down on paper. I want to capture it so that I'm able to see that I do have a legitimate need here. I'm sad because I can't have it with my mom, and I have some options. I have some choices of things that I can do. So I don't like the termination phase. I like stopping with maintenance, but you may look at termination differently. The termination piece came in because originally these stages of change were created to deal with addictions. That was their primary focus when they were developed. Quickly, people began to see that they applied to so many more things than just addictions. And so we kind of stole them for other areas. One of the things that this particular school of thought taught people was that they could get to a place where they no longer considered themselves to be addicts. And there's some strong thinking for that, to not bear that label. There is also some danger in that if not owning that piece of who I am, then gives me permission to engage again in the behavior that was harmful for me. So, it's not right or wrong. It's the thinking that goes behind it and how someone takes it and applies it to their life. So those are the stages of change. Thoughts about those, questions that you have about those? Is it helpful to see those?
Yes. As we do our role play, how do you envision, what are you looking for as you critique us?
This is, I don't feel like I or anybody has done a really good job of this, and we need to change this, the way we do this. And that is helping you guys to know how to set up these kinds of role plays. Did you notice in the role plays that we did, I talked with the women beforehand about, okay, this is what we're trying to demonstrate here. This is what I need from you. I need to be able to bring the skill into the conversation. And they both did great with that, with providing what I needed. And so when you are talking to your role play partner, you guys need to take a few minutes and talk about, okay, what is my client going to bring into the room that allows me to respond to that? And so that it's not necessarily that they have to tell you what stage of change they're going to come in, but that they create a scenario that gives you some very definite cues about where they are. We've got a few minutes here. How about if we take a minute? Is somebody willing to role play with me? The video will capture this. So if you didn't get notes that you want off of this, they'll be on the whiteboard on the video, and you'll be able to go back and or on the recording, and you'll be able to go back and pick up anything that you weren't able to capture. But anybody willing to do a role play with me here? I'm going to get out of the share. Okay. Oh, so many
I'd be
volunteers.
happy to do that.
Okay, Wendy. All right, thank you.
Or Debbie.
Debbie. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. All right. Debbie, thank you for being willing to do this with me. Now, what I need to be able to demonstrate here, I need you to give me a scenario, some kind of a scenario that really does show what stage of change you are in. And so this is a little different than, this is not counseling, this is demonstrating a skill. So whatever situation you have in mind, what I want you to do is decide ahead of time which stage you're going to be in. and then I will listen to you. And now, are we going to tell the client what stage of change they're in? Nope. This is our information to know how to help them, how to proceed with them. So at the end of the session, I'm not going to tell Deborah, listening to you, it sounds to me like you're you're in the action stage of change. Um, you know, but it is going to inform, and we'll talk about that a little bit if we have time. It is going to inform how I proceed with Debbie, in setting up some what she wants her outcome to be, what the kinds of interventions we bring in. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Debbie, thank you for coming in today. Okay, here's the other thing. We're going to presume that we've already met and gone through all of the introductory stuff, and we're just going to launch into we're like at week 2 or week 3. Okay. All right. Deborah, thank you for coming in today, and it's good to see you again. And just wondering what's on your mind today.
Well, I think I need to look for a job, and I have so much anxiety. I don't even know where to start.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Or no, I just did a can you tell me? Wondering what that anxiety looks like for you.
Well, it's paralyzing. I go through all kinds of ideas of what I could do, should do, don't really want to do, and look at the jobs that are available and don't really see a good match, and look at what I'm qualified to do, but I'm either underqualified or I'm overqualified and underpaid, and so I just don't know where to start.
That gets pretty confusing after a while, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So it sounds like you've laid some groundwork. You've been looking at potential jobs, and I'm wondering about your motivation to get a job, to go back to work.
Well, we have a lot of bills. We need to replace a car. I would like to go back to school, but don't necessarily have the financial backing right now. So we have some financial issues, I guess.
Okay. So life would look differently, or would look different for you if you were able to find a job, to secure a job.
Yeah, we wouldn't have the financial pressures, and I guess I think it would also give me more of a sense of purpose for my life.
Okay. Okay. So it would move you closer to some of the goals that you want to achieve in life, some things that you want for the quality of your life, and also give you some personal fulfillment.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Those sound like really good motivators to me. So when you think about getting a job, what does that job look like for you?
I would like to work with a team of people, although I don't necessarily want somebody standing over me telling what I need to do. I like being creative, and I'm self-motivated. I'm a conscientious worker. I have great connecting skills with others. So I guess I would like to work with people. And I know I said I'm already creative, but I really value creativity.
Okay. So you bring some pretty strong skills to the table, some things that you have to offer a prospective employer. Have you thought that's going to be a closed question. What have you thought about where you might like to work?
I have experience working with children and adults with special needs, and really found a lot of rewards working with them. I love artistic things. So I've thought about doing art therapy in a workshop for disadvantaged people.
Okay.
I've thought of working in a bank because you meet and greet people every day. I've thought of working at a school.
Mhm, mhm. So as you've looked through some of the ads, you said some I'm overqualified for, some I'm underqualified for, some salary is not commensurate with skills. As you've looked through those, I'm wondering which ones you might have been drawn to.
Really, I can't make a decision or a commitment to any of them. None of them really feel like they are the round peg in the round hole.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So I'm wondering wondering if you've thought of working with a career coach.
That's a good idea.
I wonder, what would it be like to be able to talk this through with someone who was helping you to weed through some of um, these needs and the desires.
Yeah. They could probably help clarify some things for me. They could probably help me figure out what would be a good match. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Okay. And I'm also curious whether or not you've ever done anything like what color is your parachute, or any of the workbooks that kind of help you work through some of these goals.
Nope, haven't heard of
Okay.
that.
Okay. So there might be some options there that you could explore. Does either one of those sound better to you? Or sound more like something that would fit you?
Yeah, I think I'd check out the career coach.
Okay. Okay. So I'm wondering if maybe between now and the time we meet next, I wonder if you might be able to locate and check in with maybe 2 or 3 career coaches just to see, get some idea of what that might look like.
Sure, that's a great idea.
Think you could do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Good. And we'll kind of touch base with that on when we get back together the next time.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So always I'm going to ask, first of all, what did you hear there? Or what did you see there? What stage of change is Debbie in?
I think she was in the preparation stage.
Okay. And
She
you
was-
said,
she was looking for something,
okay. Okay. And
looking for a plan.
Yeah. 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 And she has done some things before she came in. She's been looking at the ad. She's been, that it could be checking out things like Insight or whatever she's done. She has begun to explore those kinds of things. So, so then why do you think that I chose the interventions with her that I chose?
Just try-
Sorry.
Go.
It
No.
sounded like she already had, some strong motivation and you were kind of using that to channel it towards something specific because what was overwhelming to her was kind of the amount of options.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna, she already has some, she has some good motivation. In another session, I would probably have explored that motivation a little bit more, because at this point, her motivation has not overridden her, whatever is holding her back from getting a job. And so as we moved along, we would continue to talk about that in terms of action steps and her feelings for what engages her feelings here. But at this point, we're looking for that I'm okay with presenting some options to her of things that she might do, because she has already on her own been doing some of those things. So what I'm doing is I'm adding to, I'm opening up space for her to have more options. I'm not saying to her, you need to complete this workbook, or you need to go get a coach. Is this something that you've thought about doing? And that's that concept of, have you thought about doing this, opens her up to be able to think, oh no, I haven't thought about that, but that might be something that would be helpful. And then what I'm discerning about Debbie is she's somebody who would follow through on that. So then I moved a little bit into goal setting there toward the end, just to kind of give you a little picture of that. Identifying a couple of different, and it could be more than two options. Those were just the two that came to my mind in the short time that we have, was doing a workbook, or checking out career coaching, and then putting those in front of her and saying, does either one of those sound like it's something that might work for you? Not, I think this is what you should do, or, you really need, if you really want to get a job, here's how you go about getting a job. But hearing some of her concerns, and then engaging her in doing what she's already doing and extending her action. She's already been exploring, so now let's see, can you explore in some more concrete ways, where you're getting feedback, not just you're looking at the ads, but whether she chose to do the workbook, or whether she chose to check out a couple of career coaches, she's engaging with the problem on a different level. She's moved from just taking in the evaluating the possibilities in the job listings. She moves from that to identifying some concrete ways that she can then begin to solidify what her needs are, what fits her. And it's a gentle step, but it's a step. Where do you think we might go from here? If she comes back in next session and she's found, she's talked to 3 job coaches, and it could go either way. It could be she's talked to 3 job coaches. She just doesn't think that's going to be something that is going to work for her. And so that then determines what we would, how we would pursue a next step for her. Or she comes back in and she says, well, I talked to 3 job coaches, and a couple of them sounded like they knew what they were doing, but this one guy, he just really seemed to hear what I was saying, and I was excited after I talked with him. So if we look at that, if she comes back in and she says, checked out 3 job coaches, just don't think that's the route for me, then where might we go with, what might be a next step that we would take with her?
Well, I guess you could explore a little bit more about why that's not going to work out for her, like what's going on there. And then also go back and bring up your other suggestion of the books. And or maybe you have another suggestion, or maybe you ask her to think of.
Maybe she does as a result of talking to these job coaches. Maybe she now has some other thoughts or ideas about what she needs, or what's important to her, or questions that she needs to get answered, or it could be any of those things. But Wendy, what you're saying that's important is talking about her experience, bringing it back to her and her experience, rather than just, well, okay, so you don't want to do job coaches. Okay, here's a list of 3 more things that you might try. We want to process that with her and learn what we can learn from that, and help her learn what she can learn from that experience. Then we could come back in and talk about, okay, so if what do you think might help you? Listening to these job coaches, you realize that you really want to be someplace where you can work with people, and you can also, there's a creative element to it. What would be a next step that you could take that would help to clarify that? And this is where we come into some of the again, the techniques. I'm just going to tell you because we're getting short on time. This is where I would bring in a clustering technique. And we'd get a piece of paper, we'd sit down together, we'd look at, people and passion, or people and creativity. And then I'd ask her to just start talking about what that looks like, and what excites her about that, and feelings that she has when she thinks about that. And we put those all into, I think your book calls it brainstorming. I call it clustering. And we'd get that all laid out in front of her. And then we'd start looking for themes and patterns, And so it becomes another action step that gets her closer to identifying what she wants, what she's looking for in a job. And then as we go along, there are concrete things that she can do to pursue a job. We could, I could say to her now, what if you put in 5 applications every day? That's typically when somebody gets downsized from a job, is what the headhunters will say. You need to do X number of applications every single day. Well, that might be a good intervention. But if you have no idea what you're pursuing, think about how discouraging it might be to be, job applications take a long time to do. think about how discouraging it might be to have a set for you as a goal that you have to do 5 of those a day. You know, you're not looking for something that might fit you or something that might be you might find interesting or even challenging, a new thing to learn. You know, Debbie said, you know, maybe working in a bank. Uh, uh, and so at some point, what we'd do would be a pro and con list. What would be the pros of working in a bank? What would be the cons of working in a bank? And you know, are there enough pros there that would be satisfying to you? You know, because every job is going to have problems. It's going to have struggles. So I can talk about this stuff all night. This is this helpful? And do you have questions or thoughts about this process?
Yeah, that was helpful in knowing how to preset it with your partner so that,
Yes, absolutely preset.
yeah.
It's okay to do that.
So for this next role play, what you're looking for is for us to talk with our partner about like what stage they're coming in, and then to demonstrate like the goal setting skills,
Mhm.
and non-judgmental listening cycle and
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the goal setting, because Wendy was already, or because Debbie was already in the action stage, then it became more natural to do a more definite goal setting piece there. If your client is, say, in the pre-contemplation stage, then uh, what might goal setting with a client like that look like? Because they're not acknowledging that there isn't any kind of problem. So you're not gonna um, you're not gonna be identifying a problem to work on because they don't think there is one. Um, but what if you look with somebody who's in pre-contemplative stage? What if you look at desired outcome? You know, that miracle question. If you got up tomorrow and everything was just exactly the way you wanted it to be, um, what would that look like? What might you be doing differently than you are now? What might you be doing the same as you are now? What might other people be doing differently than they are now? You know, and particularly with people who are strongly resistant, that looking for a desired outcome, because everybody has dreams. You know, everybody, whether they've let themselves acknowledge them or not, they've got to. This is how I wish it could be. And that goes a long way toward breaking through resistance, or to getting people to lower their resistance. Let's talk about, you know, if it's somebody who's a husband who's been mandated into counseling by his wife, or she's going to leave him. You know, I just really wonder um, uh, what your dream marriage would look like. What would it look like if you and she just had the best relationship that you can imagine? So again, your intervention is gonna match the pre-contemplation. With him, I'm not going to start talking about goals of, well, you know, what if you and your wife set a timer and each of you for 15 minutes, 3 times a week, Each of you just sat and listened to what the other one had to say and didn't respond back. Now that's going to go into an action stage, perhaps, but it's not going to go into a pre-contemplation stage, or even a contemplation stage, or a preparation stage. That's definitely going to scoot into that. Once somebody has recognized there's a problem, they're seeking ways that they can work toward change. Then we can introduce interventions like that. Okay. All right. I'm working on grading. Still working on. I will absolutely post some information videos for you guys. What I'm working on now, I just decided I was going to, instead of breaking things up into week by week, I'm taking the doodly that I was creating, and I am plugging in all of the skills with some examples of what those look like. And I will get that done by this weekend, and I will get it posted. So, and if you all have questions, please let me know. If after you take your quiz, you want to take a look at your quiz results, I know I can pull those up. I'll ask again about why can't our students get the results of get anything besides a point result of their quiz, because you should be able to get the feedback. That's how you learn. If you don't know what you did wrong, then you can't look at why it might have been wrong or what you need to do differently. Okay. All right. Well, let me just close us in prayer tonight. You guys have been wonderful about hanging on and engaging, and so I hope that this was helpful. I typically do not do a week 7 optional virtual classroom because I'm aware that in other classes you often are doing projects that have to be turned in by next week. But I will say this: if anybody needs support, needs questions, wants to do a role play, whatever, I will make myself available next Monday night. Just I'll tell you, let's leave it at this: shoot me a text if there's something that would be helpful for you, and I'll make myself available next Monday night, and we'll work that time in. Okay. All right. Let me pray for us, and let's get some sleep. For us East Coasters, Midwesters, let's get some sleep. Father, thank you so much for this time that we've had together. I'm just so grateful for each of these men and women, for their passion for you, and for walking alongside others who are wanting to grow. As always, I just ask that you would help them to take away what you need them to take away from not just from tonight, Father, but from this whole class experience. You're putting things in their toolbox that that you have shown us work in helping people to grow, and give them the confidence that they are never alone. You are always there beside them, and that because you've called them, you're going to equip them. And give us a good night's sleep now. For those of us who are in snowy environments, please protect us, and protect the people who are having to be out in this horrible, horrible weather. So we love you, Father, and it is so good to be able to sit in your love, and to know that that's never going to go away. We pray together in Jesus' name. All right. Well, I will see you all, talk to you all later. Have a good rest of your week. And we're gonna wrap up week 6 here. It goes fast.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mary.
Thank you.
Night.
Right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome. Night.